Hello and welcome to today's afternoon lesson with me, Mr. R, or Mr. Ricky, actually, or Richie. You can call me Richie if you like. So welcome to AM Language. I hope you're all doing well, and if you had morning lessons, I hope they went well. And if you had a level test today, best of luck. Hope you did well as well. In today's lesson, we are going to look at past forms. So today we're going to look at a little bit of accuracy, but we're also going to see how we can do with some activities to help us with this. So Bruno Okada says, good afternoon, Bruno Okada. Welcome to today's lesson. Arena F as well, good afternoon, privyet. Alida, good afternoon, or should I say buenos dias. Thank you very much, yes, Mr. Ritchie. Leondina says, good afternoon, Richard. Thank you very much, Leondina. Buono pomeriggio. And welcome to today's lesson. So well done, by the way, for all of you who joined yesterday's lesson. We had a really good lesson. And yesterday we were looking at fluency. Today we are going to look at accuracy with the past forms. As always, guys, just make sure if you want to find out how you can have physical live lessons at AM Language, make sure you click on the description below after the lesson to follow the links to our website and various social media pages. Now, if you watch this later, you don't need to fast forward the first 5 minutes. Because I'm going to go into it quite quickly because I know I was a tad late. I was just a tad late today. So let's get into it. Past forms. When we're thinking about the past, the first thing that we always need to know is that we are, of course, talking about something that is finished. That never changes. However, we've got some different past forms, and I'm going to just see to what extent you guys know that you can link certain types of past forms to their different categories. We'll then break them down and go from there. Now, I expect all of you who are watching to know, for instance, what your standard past simple might be, but we are going to look at a range today. So there'll be something for everybody. There'll be something for those whose English is quite weak, and there'll be something for those whose English is quite strong. And if we have time, then we might even have a little look at modality in the past as well. So let's go into it. Okay, I'm just going to give you what I would like you to do. Okay, guys, we've got to think about the present simple, present continuous, not present continuous. What am I writing? Dear me. Let's get rid of that. And not the present simple. We're talking about the past simple. So let me start again. So we're thinking about the past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. Now, I don't expect us today to get to the point of looking at something like the past perfect continuous. I would be very surprised if we did. But I think we can probably look at past simple, past continuous, and past perfect and how to use them accurately. There's also an interesting slight difference between American English here and British English in terms of which ones we would choose to use and when. Very slight difference. I'm not sure why that is, but I have a theory as to why there might be a slight difference. So I'm going to write a sentence, and you guys just need to tell me if the sentence is, which one it is. Is this past simple? Is it a present perfect? Let me know. So, A. And I haven't even included the passive here. We're not going to look at the passive voice in the past. We're just looking at your standard active voice. Okay, so this is the first one. Just let me know. A, the police had left by the time John arrived at the house. So let me know which one you think that is. B, B, C, and finally D. Evelina, good afternoon. And D. So we've got, so Alida's already come in with an answer here. So Alida's gone with A is past perfect. The police had left by the time John arrived at the house. If you agree with Alida, make sure that you put your answers in and let me know if you agree with her. B is John was getting a coffee on his way to work. C is Kate was on time. And D, we had been working on that project for several months prior to the new regulations. So Alida has gone with A is past perfect, B is past continuous, C is past simple, and D is past perfect continuous. Arena F has gone with A is past perfect, B is past continuous, C is past simple, and D is past perfect continuous. So Alida and Arena agree with one another. For everyone else who's watching, let me know if you agree with Alida and Arena F. In which case, we can safely say that we're then, if you all agree, then we are all on the same page for today. Let me know if you're watching and if you haven't said hello yet, and feel free to tell me what your level is. What your level is. If you tell me what your level is, I'll make sure I make sure that I adapt for your level as well. So Leondina says A is past perfect, B is past continuous, C is past simple, and C is past perfect continuous. Okay, very good. Well done. Now, let's see if we know the rules now for when we use this type of language. So, we've got again, we've got the we need to just remind ourselves, okay, we've got to think about again the past simple, past continuous, continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. Now, I should say, regarding before, okay, well done, everyone put in the same answers, and you all got the correct answers. So we're all on the same page in terms of being able to see the grammar and know, right, that's a past simple, that's a past perfect, and so on and so forth. Now let's think about meaning. Okay. So to say that an action in the past continued for a period of time, let me know which grammar point you think that goes with. and D. Okay, guys. So let's see. So you got A to say that an action in the past continued for a period of time. You've got B, a finished action in the past. C, two finished actions in the past, and and D, a finished action in the past that had continued for a period of time. Very slightly different in terms of wording, and that will give you an idea. A leader's come in already. So the meaning of A to say that an action in the past an action in the past continued for a period of time. So both you and Alida agree there. B, past simple, past simple. Both of you agree. Finish action in the past. C, you've both gone for past perfect to say that two finish actions in the past. And when it comes to the last one, you've both said past perfect continuous. Leondina, sorry, so far agrees with A and B. Let's see if she agrees as well with C and D. Let's see if she agrees with C and D. So if we get all of this right, then it tells us that in theory, we know which one says which, the differences, and we also know how to make them. So then the next question would be application. So we would then know in theory when to use them, but can we identify when to use them? So let's see. And then Leondina agrees. Okay, so we're all roughly on the same page, and Bruno Okada agrees as well. Excellent, guys. Okay, so we can now say that we can identify the sentence structure, we know how to make it, and we can also see the difference between them in terms of when to use them, the meaning. The question is, when? Do we know how to apply it? Now, I should say this, there is a slight difference between UK and American English, and the difference is that in UK English, it is very common to use the past perfect. However, in American English, it is not that common to use the past perfect. In American English, they're more likely just to always go with past simple. Now, you can say roughly the same thing, but being English, I would encourage you to learn the past perfect because in the end, I think the grammar is a little bit clearer when it comes to meaning. I don't know the actual reason why there's a difference. I wouldn't be surprised if it had something to do with the printing press and journalism. There was a time where journalists were charged money for every letter, and you could say that if you write in the present, if you write in the past perfect, you might have to use more letters or use more words, should I say. So I think there might be an element of that in. Now, I'm now going to write some sentences, but they're going to be incomplete. You guys need to decide what you're going to go for. Okay, I'll give you the idea of the verb you need to use, but that's all I'm going to give you. So yeah, so Alida, yeah, so that's why, for instance, color is missing a U, favorite is missing a U. So there's that's why you have spelling differences between American and British English. Now, I don't know if it's the same for grammar, but I wouldn't be surprised if it were to be the same. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same reason. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so let's look at the next thing. I'm going to write incomplete sentences here, and you guys need to try and complete the sentence using the right grammar as well. Let's see how you guys do. So, Okay, guys, let's see. This is the first sentence. You've got the verbs that you need to think about. Let's see what you guys go for. How do you complete this? So, John uh, out for hours before he home, and his wife worried. Let's see what you guys go for. We'll start off. I wouldn't say this is this is absolutely easy, but if you're pre-intermediate, this isn't something I would still perhaps throw this at a pre-intermediate. I would definitely throw this at a pre-intermediate if they were thinking of, or if they were about to take a level test. Sandra says, hi. Well, H for hi. Hello, Sandra. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's game. Okay, today's lesson. Today's lesson. So let me know what you guys try to do for this one. So you need to think about the different types of grammar. So I haven't given you too much at the same time. I haven't given you any auxiliary verb like had. No, you guys need to think a little bit more about this. Like I said, this is definitely something I'd throw at an intermediate student. This is something I would hope an upper intermediate student can do. And this is something I know that a pre-intermediate student might find a little bit difficult, but it is something that they would need to know if they were going into a level test exam to move to the intermediate level. So this is a nice sort of one which covers anything from pre-intermediate to def to intermediate and a little bit of the beginning of upper intermediate. This would probably be too difficult for an elementary student, though. So let's see if you guys can come up with anything. So John something out for hours before he something home, and his wife worried. Now, um, where's my there it is. So what you guys need to think about here is you've got be in brackets. Now that tells you the type of one of your main verbs, really. So then you need to decide for the first one. Do you go for was? Do you go for had been? You need to think about the rest of the sentence as well. So Alida's gone for had been, got, was. Let's see if that makes sense. And if you agree with Alida, please let me know. If you disagree with Alida, let me know as well. So Alida has written, John had been out for hours before he got home, and his wife was worried. Okay, if you think that makes sense and that is accurate, just say you agree with Alida. However, if you disagree and you think you might be able to change it, by all means. So Sandra has said had been out for hours. So the same as Alida, he went home and his wife was worried. So you've just changed the word there, Sandra. What I would say is if I put go, went is the past for go. So go and went. But in this case, I've put get, and we are talking about the past. So then we need to think about get and got, for example. So I can't use went in this situation. It wouldn't be correct. Arena F has come in with the same answer as Sandra, and as Arena. Sorry, I'll say that again. Arena F has come in with the same answer as Alida, and Sandra says, "Ah, yes, of course." Okay, good. So we've managed to successfully do this, and that is the correct answer, guys. Had been, got, and was. Excellent. Let's now move on to the next one. Oops. Okay, what do you think about this one, guys? Before we move on to the really hard one, let's look at this. So she something to, and we need to think of the verb work here, in the shop when two men in and suspicious. Okay, let's see what you guys go for here. So this again, this is something that I would expect anyone from a, anyone at a B1 level um, would should be able to answer this one. Should be able to answer this one. Now, this would be pre-intermediate and intermediate. I haven't. This isn't the hardest one. The hardest one is going to be after this one, I think. But we'll see what you guys come up with. But the reason why I say a pre-intermediate and an intermediate should be able to do this one is because, to tell you, don't overthink it. There's always a danger of overthinking an answer. So what I would say is try and keep things simple with this one, and you will find that it's actually a lot easier than what you might first think. There is a danger. There is, this is a good word. There is a tendency. Tendency is a word of like a habit. There's a tendency to think, to overthink these questions. Okay, so a tendency is a habit. So there is a tendency to overthink these questions, meaning that you think they're more complicated than they are. This does happen in level tests. Sometimes you see students and you can see that they were overthinking. They ended up thinking that the question was a lot harder than it actually was. So Alida has gone with was working. So she was working, sorry, in the shop when two men walked in and looked suspicious. Leonidina has gone for the same answer. Alida says because you think it's it, oh, tricky. Yes, Alida. Yeah, yes, it's true. In level tests, it is very common for students to think, "Ah, this is going to be tricky. No, it can't be that simple." Sometimes it is. Irina F has said she was working in the shop when two men walked in and looked suspicious. Sandra was working, walked and looked. Bruno Ricard agrees. Okay, and Evelina agrees as well. Okay, excellent. So we have all managed to answer this one correctly. And this is Maria Rojas. Buenas tardes, Maria. Lovely to see you here. She had were working in and looked. Okay, so Maria, what I would say is here is I think here this is an example. I think the correct answer here is actually just present continuous. She was working in the shop. You don't need to make this into a present. You don't need to make this into a past perfect. And because then you've gone with were walking in and looked. Let's see how this looks though. I'll just read it. So she had worked in the shop when two men were walking in and looked suspicious. So I would say here the difficulty here, Maria, is that you've gone for past perfect, past continuous, and past simple all in the same sentence. This is very difficult to do, and grammatically we have to be careful because the meaning is going to be changed. So it's not to say you cannot make a past perfect with a past continuous, because it is possible at times. But I think in this case, this is an example of maybe thinking the answer is more complicated than it needs to be. The correct answer here is she was working in the shop when two men walked in and looked suspicious. Now we have to think of the how we are using the past continuous here. The past, just to explain a little bit, the past continuous in this case is explaining what was happening at the time. Okay, and the past simple is what we would call an interruption. Okay, and this is quite an important this is an important thing to know when we are choosing whether to use past continuous or past simple. An interruption, a sentence of interruption is really important to know. Now, a past simple is usually used like this. You'll have the past continuous that explains, Maria Rojas, good afternoon as well. You'll have the past continuous that is explaining to you what was happening at the time. And then this is why you're going to have the linking word of, in this case, when, and then an action interrupts the first, interrupts it. And this is an example of this. Okay, so you've got present, so you've got past continuous. She was working in the shop when, past simple, interruption, two men walked in to the shop. So that is what we're looking at here. Let's go for the next one. And as I said, this is now probably going to be the harder one. Okay, guys, this is probably the hardest one. So I am giving you a kind of idea, because if I'm saying it's the hardest, one of the harder ones, that kind of tells you, right, maybe I do need to think about the grammar here. Maybe this is going to be a bit harder to do. And we'll see what you guys come up with. So they something build. So we need to think of the verb build here. The machine for several months before they something, and we need to think of, this is a phrasal verb, run out of money and support. In theory, there could be more than one answer to this, and this is where I would say we might find a slight difference between UK and US English. So there's potentially there are more there's more than one right way to say this sentence. I'm not going to lie, the harder way is to go with what we would typically use in UK English. We'll see what you guys come up with. So a leader has come in with, okay, right. So a leader thinks this is going to be a past perfect continuous. So they had been building the machine for several months before they ran out of money and support. Okay, if you guys agree with a leader, if you think this is a past perfect continuous to begin with, Leondine is coming with had been built. This would be a passive. They had been built the machine for several months before they ran out. Okay, so there's a slight difference there in the first one. We'll see who's going to be correct later, and we can have a look at the grammar involved. Leondine has changed her answer, though, to instead of built, building. Okay, so now you agree with the leader. And Bruno, because Bruno has come in with they had been building and then ran out. Okay, so all of you are going for a past perfect continuous. I'll still explain how we can identify that this should be a past perfect continuous, but you are correct. Yes, they had been building the machine for several months before they ran out of money and support. Now, I should say this, when simple ways, for those of you who might not know how to make the past simple, the past perfect continuous. One, we use it, okay, like I said, to talk about an action, a finished, should I say, action that had continued for a period of time. we need to use a time marker, okay? So we need a time marker. In this case, our time marker is several months. But when you do make a past perfect continuous, you're saying that something is a finished action, it continued for a period of time, and you're putting in a time marker. Sorry, so it had continued for a period of time. Really important. It had continued for several months. It had continued for 12 months. We've got all that. And the next bit of the sentence, it's not going to be unusual to follow it with a past simple of some kind. And the linker is going to be a certain type of word. It's it's a it's a conjunction and a preposition at the same time. And these would be like words like before, for example. You could put after as well. You're going to look at some kind of linking preposition. Excellent. Well done, guys. So let's go again. And now we're going to make this, because you're all doing quite well. So now I'm going to give you a longer sentence. Well, longer paragraph. Let's see how many you guys can get right within this one. Okay, I'm going to run up space there, so I'll continue after I post this. Okay, guys. So now we've written more of a paragraph here. Let's see what you guys go with. So the Queen, something B, sick for weeks. And her staff, something worried. The doctor, something for some time, that the Queen might not recover. He something tried to think of how to save her, but he something in the realm of cannot think of a solution. I'll fit in one more sentence actually. Okay, so I've just added a little bit more to this story. So let's see how you guys get on. The second bit to it, the people, something to hear of the Queen's death for several months, but no news came. In the end, people never of the Queen again. Okay, so for the first bit, a leader's gone with the Queen had been sick for weeks and her staff was worried. And her staff was worried. The doctor had been thinking for some time that that the Queen might not recover. Bruno's gone with had been. Uh, so the Queen had been sick for weeks and her staff was worried. So that's the same. Then you've also got for had been thinking as well. The doctor had been thinking for some time that the Queen might not recover. Okay, had been was okay. So you're all coming up with the same answers for the first one. Okay, guys. Well, I can tell you for the first one. Okay, had been was happy. Okay, for the first one, correct. You're all of you are correct. That is that. Well done. Okay, really well done. Had been was and had. Actually, the only thing I would say would be the staff was actually the middle one because you've all gone from was. The staff, um, her staff was worried. Her staff were worried. The thing about this is staff here. It's an uncountable. So let's see. Leondina said a little bit more. So the only thing I would say here, instead of saying her staff was worried, her staff were worried. I would go with were. That's the only thing I would say about this in the number one. Um, had been were because we're talking about staff here in plural rather than single. Her staff was worried. Her staff were worried. I'm thinking this in terms of plural. We could actually have a debate about that one. And the last bit, yes, had been thinking. Okay, so let's look at the next one. You guys put tried and couldn't. Tried and couldn't. Leondina says tried and couldn't. Tried and couldn't. He was trying and wasn't. Okay, let's see. So he tried to think of how to save her, but he couldn't. What I would say is here, you've got two options. Neither of them are necessarily going to be wrong. The question is, well, are we trying to describe an action that was happening at any point? Because for this one here, you could say he was trying to think. He was trying to think of how to save her. To save her, but he couldn't. So couldn't is definitely correct. For the first one, he tried to think of, you could go with that. I would say both answers could be potentially correct. It depends how you go about telling a story. If you are telling a story, you might very well go for the present continuous here. Give it a sort of action that he was trying to think. I mean, when you're talking about someone trying to solve a problem in the past, it's not uncommon to go with the past continuous to do that. Let's see what else you guys have said. So then you've gone on to say that he had been expecting to hear of the Queen's death. Oh, the people. So the people had been expecting to hear of the Queen's death, but they never heard of the Queen again. Okay, good. Yes, a leader. That's correct. That is correct. Let's see what other people say if they come in with the same answers. It makes sense. Maybe someone has a slightly different answer. I should add, for some of these, there's potentially more than one correct answer. I'm not going to lie, there is more than one correct answer for some of these. It just changes things just a little bit. People, okay. If you go for that, then you would have to say the people were expecting to were expecting. You'd have to go for that one, Bruno. So we can't use people was, people were. So people were expecting to hear of the Queen's death. That's fine. That's not incorrect to say that. Alida, both look, I'm going to be honest here. In this case, you could make both the past continuous or the past perfect continuous. Both would be acceptable. Both definitely would be acceptable, and couldn't is definitely definitely right. But what's this one? Could be? Yeah, yes. Sorry, Alida. Now I understand your question. Yes, it could be the past continuous there. Had been expected. No, had been expecting. We've got to go with expecting there. Actually, Leondina. Then you would have got the answer correct. The people were expecting. Yes. So for this last bit, you've got two possible ways of starting that sentence. You could go with a past perfect continuous, and there would be nothing wrong in that. And you could go for a past continuous, and that would also be correct. Both answers would make sense. Okay, guys, like the video if you've enjoyed this lesson. Like I said, today we have looked at past forms. We've looked at quite a few past forms, actually. We didn't look at the passive, but very well done to everybody. Like I said, there was something for everybody. There were some things for pre-intermediates, and there were some things for intermediates, and there were some things for upper intermediates. As always, the lesson started off slightly easier and gradually became more difficult. So guys, thank you so much for joining the lesson today. I hope all of you had a good time. Make sure if you are new that you subscribe to the channel, and always please check out our website. Just to remind you guys that tomorrow I will be back at the same time at 4 o'clock. And tomorrow is Thursday, so tomorrow we're going to look at lexical set and chain, or lexical sets and chains, should I say. Okay, guys, so take care. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Alida. Thank you, Arena F. Thank you, Evelina. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Irina F. And anyone else? Evelina, Leondina. Yes, I think I've mentioned anyone. If I haven't mentioned you, I do apologize, but thank you to everyone who joined the lesson today, and see you guys tomorrow. Take care, and thank you so much, and bye for now.